Good evening, everybody. Today, my group and I are going to talk about the intercommunication styles of Brazil and their leadership styles and everything that goes hand in hand when it comes to that. First, we are going to play a video of Brazil just to introduce it, let everyone see how pretty it is, and just some factors that go along with Brazil. Alrighty, that video was just to kind of show some fun places that Brazil has, and we'll get into the presentation.
Yeah, so
John,
just sorry.
that's okay.
Yeah, so just jumping into the introduction here, definitely attention grabbing, just the beauty of Brazil, and that kind of serves as context for this presentation. And the purpose of it is to show how to communicate effectively in Brazil. Intercultural communications is a super important topic. And so we're going to cover, based on the research that we did, several cultural aspects that are key to communicating effectively in Brazil. And we'll show some of those citations at the end, but as we get into it now, we're going to focus on how in Brazil, the focus is more on relationships as opposed to tasks, how Brazilians are willing to be flexible, how they're more animated and show attentiveness in some different ways than Americans do, and then how they dress differently in business meetings. So to start that presentation, I'll pass it back off to you, Natalie, to talk about how they're more focused on relationships over tasks.
Thank you, John. So, Brazil puts a lot of importance on building positive relationships with who they are working with. They are more people oriented than task oriented, which results just on the emphasis on personal connection. They want to do business with people that they trust and they respect, which is a lot different than what we are used to here in the US. A lot of the times when the US is making trades or doing business, they want to just focus on the task in hand and how the task is going to benefit from the business. But Brazil puts more of an emphasis on how the people of Brazil or the people involved in the trade or the business are going to benefit from the trade or whatever that they were doing. So they really just want to put people first rather than the task. And that also leads to sometimes time management problems. So if Michael, if you would like to discuss about the flexibility of Brazil.
Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in Brazilian business meetings. So Brazilians, they usually arrive about 15 to 30 minutes late, and that could depend on what they have going on. It could be even later than that. They do have a high tolerance for delays and cancellations. So if you are running behind, they're not going to get too bent out of shape. But if you are a foreigner, it is best to arrive early because you do want to make a positive impression on the Brazilians. And just a quick little article that I read. It's by Richard Feynman, and I have that in the sources as well. But he was a teacher, and he was new to the Brazilian culture. So he gets to the class, and 15, 20, 25 minutes go by, and nobody shows up. And all of a sudden, about 30 to 35 minutes later, the kids start coming in, and he asked them, "Why do you show up late?" And they told him that they feel like if they show up late, they can be more successful in life, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then also with those business meetings here in the diagram that I have. So they're always very close. They want to get to know you, and they'll crack a lot of jokes during the meeting, and it'll feel like you've known them for about 30 years. And that'll take me into my next slide real quick. So yeah, just more about business meetings. There's the 5 regions of Brazil, And pretty much all the regions are pretty relaxed when it comes to meetings, but the further north you get, the even more relaxed the business meetings become. And that brings us into our next segment, which John will talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So just to cover communication and some of the differences in communication in Brazil as opposed to the United States, we'll start with greetings. So they have very long handshakes with a lot of direct eye contact. They'll greet at both the start and the end of meetings. So if there's 20 people in your meeting, you're going to shake each person's hand at both the beginning and the end of those meetings. They do greet differently based off of men and women. So while men usually stick towards handshakes, women will greet people by kissing both cheeks, for example. And then in terms of titles, it's very common to use people's first names. Titles are important. So if someone is a superior, you'll want to address them accordingly. But once again, most often you would just want to use their first name to keep that relational feel of the meeting. And if we head on to the next slide here, we will talk about how they're more fast paced and animated in their conversations. Oftentimes, if we were in a meeting and there was an interruption, it would be considered rude. But in Brazil, it's not really considered rude and it's not confrontational. It's to show that you're enthusiastic about the topic and you're paying attention to what the speaker's saying. And finally, in a Michigan State article, they talked about how eye contact is really important to show the speaker that you're paying attention. And so that's super important to just give really direct eye contact to the speaker in Brazil so that you show them you're interested in what they're saying. And that really helps build relationships. So here I'll pass it to TJ if he wants to unmute his mic quick and cover kind of the attire aspect of Brazil. We'll go into that.
Thank you, John. So the appearance of Brazil. So I had the pleasure of interviewing a foreign exchange student here in Escanaba his name is Mario Augusta Sudo Ferrara Filo, and he is from Jaio Pessoa. That is on the northeast side of Brazil, and he got to give me some great insight just on just their appearance. So depending on where your location is, kind of gives you what you're going to wear. If you're in the more Native American area, you're going to be wearing more brightful colors, kind of like more feathers, bigger dresses. While if you're like in the more like richer area or kind of where he's at, you're going to be seeing more suits from the men's and women's side, and that just kind of goes in like other certain areas of Brazil. They do wear similar clothing to Americans. They do wear suits. They do wear t-shirts outside of the work area, or if it's just going to be like a casual meeting, they could wear something similar like a polo and just some khaki shorts. Now, they do dress up for parties. They do wear like festival colors. Some for women, they're called Bena dresses. They're like poofy dresses, kind of just bright colors. They usually wear those for those festivals. Kids in school, they usually wear a black polo, black shoes, jeans, or kind of sweatpants. It's funny, he was kind of wearing that when I interviewed him. I thought that was kind of funny, just like he hasn't changed too much or adjusted too much to American styles. And then just kind of their appearance, like haircut style, just kind of like who they work with, just the people they surround themselves with, kind of just shows the kind of haircuts they're going to be using. Sometimes it will be like on their favorite soccer player, like you said, like Neymar's from their country. So a lot of business people could be wearing like Neymar haircuts, and they just kind of look all the same. Their cologne, it's kind of a sign of respect. He says it's stronger there in Brazil than in the U.S. And if you wear the same cologne though, as compared with somebody else, it's kind of a sign of disrespect. So you don't want to wear the same cologne as someone. You want to like have your own type of cologne and have your own identity. So that was quite interesting. But outside of work, like I said, and for casual meetings, they'll wear like these sandals called chanelos. The popular brand is Havanas, and it's like like our Nikes, kind of like everybody's gonna wear Nikes. So like everybody in their country wears Havanas. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I will pass this to Natalie for our conclusion.
Great job, everybody. So kind of wrapping this up and to summarize, intercultural communication in Brazil. It focuses a lot on relationships and people rather than tasks at hand, which also leads to a willingness to be flexible when it comes to meetings and just communication in general. And then we also discussed being animated and showing attentiveness when it comes to those meetings, just showing respect, and how Brazil goes about that. And we also discussed wearing the proper attire, just also to show respect and to follow along in the cultures and customs of the country. And we also have our citations provided for the facts and resources that we use to put this presentation together. And that is everything. Thank you for listening.